All right, so the Buccaneers have made a coaching decision. It was reported earlier this week that they were going to fire Byron Leftwich, and they had made that decision actually in the middle of the season, but figured for that season it was best to not have a coaching turnover. That's a rumor. I don't know if that's true, but what we do know is true now is that the Buccaneers have fired Byron Leftwich, according to Rick Stroud. Apparently, they're also firing as many as 5 offensive assistants and 2 on defense as well. So they are cleaning house, essentially, with the exception of Todd Bowles. And I think my first reaction I have with this is I'm giving credit to Todd Bowles. I've defended Todd Bowles in some senses this season in terms of his defensive play calling. I thought was very good. I still have major issues with his clock management, his game management in general with fourth downs and stuff. But the biggest issue the Buccaneers had coaching-wise this year was the offensive coaching. I mean, listen, there were things that were different from this year to last year. There absolutely were. But you look at the last season, they were one of the best offenses in football. 2.68 points per drive on the season. That was 5th best in football. That's incredible, right? Very good stuff. This year, it's a point lower. It was a point lower. I mean, they were 26th in football with 1.65 points per drive. That's an insane jump. That's the kind of jump you expected to see if Tom Brady retired, right? Tom Brady was still there. Maybe not quite as good, but he was still there and was still, by most metrics, sort of a fringe top 10 quarterback last year, which is not what you expect from Brady. If you're going to win a Super Bowl with Brady, you need him to be elite. But at the same time, it wasn't like he was a mess. Again, they had some injuries in the receiving corps, but they had more injuries last year in the receiving corps. And then the offensive line was definitely worse this year. But still, it is it was an issue here for Tampa Bay. The offense didn't get going. And anyone who watched the Buccaneers really these past few years would say, yeah, they had some issues coaching wise. And one thing that I point towards is, people bring up I brought up a lot, this team runs the ball too much. They pay way too much attention running the football. And people will bring up, well, wait a second. If you look at their, overall statistics, they run the ball pretty, not that much. I mean, they passed the ball 4% over expected in 2022. Brady had all those pass attempts, right? This isn't a run-heavy team. Well, no. If you take out when a team has greater than 70% win probability, then their pass frequency over expected is even. They pass the ball as often as you would expect the team to pass the ball. So it's average in that sense. And on first downs, it's 3% under expected. So basically, and they throw the ball a bit more on on third downs. But for the most part, this is a team that would run the ball a lot. They, sort of towards the end of the year, they started just abandoning the run a little bit more. But I think also it's not just do you run or do you pass, but it's how do you run and how do you pass. This is a team that basically ran the same 2 running plays all season long. It's what they did in previous years too, but in previous years, they actually had the talent to make it at least work somewhat effectively. This year, they don't have that, so they had to get creative, and they didn't. I also look at a lot of these passing concepts and these, lack of zone busters that you see. I mean, they're basically every concept was designed to get these receivers one-on-one matchups, and it just makes me think like, okay, yes, these receivers are good. They can win their one-on-one matchups. Why not make things easier for them? You see how the Vikings use Justin Jefferson, how the Rams use Cooper Kupp. If you think if the Buccaneers used Chris Godwin that way, why couldn't he be a superstar wide receiver, you would think? But they don't use him that way. So that's another frustration. So again, feel bad for Leftwich on a personal level for sure. I mean, this is a guy who many were talking about as a future head coach in this league. I believe the rumor was that he was very close to the Jaguars job and maybe even turned it down is what a rumor I've heard is. I don't know how true that is, but he was definitely he's definitely involved in the potentially getting the Jaguars job. I'm sure Jacksonville fans are happy with the decision they made at this point. But, assuming this is a Todd Bowles decision, you have to look at this as a credit to Todd Bowles. I mean, we've seen too many coaches sort of be afraid to make a move. And again, you get it. There's the personal level of you don't want to fire someone. And, I do think to some degree, I'll get into it a little bit later, I do think to some degree this was the strategy Bowles had going into the season of this kind of Byron Leftwich style thing. But the reality is, Bowles kind of said, this isn't working. Like this was not a good season offensively. And, Leftwich had said some things throughout the course of the season that were also questionable, to say the least. I think the worst was that towards the end of the year, he said that it's actually a top 10 offense, which it's just not. By like no metric it is. I think it was like 11th in scoring or something like that, or yards. Maybe I believe it was yards, which is like a terrible metric to use. But of course, a lot of coaches on the Buccaneers staff are dinosaurs, so I get why they would still use yards as a credit to the offense when that's not really true. It's just that they've been down a lot in games and have no choice but to pass the ball a lot. What does this mean for the Buccaneers going forward? How do we feel about this? A lot of people are doing victory laps, saying, "Here we go. This is fantastic. We're going to win the Super Bowl next year." Okay, pump the brakes. First off, we still don't have a quarterback, and we have some other free agents as well we have to deal with. I definitely don't want Lavonte David going anywhere, especially after the year he just had. So we need we need a quarterback. We need that stuff. And I also have to say, if Brady comes back, I don't know that they're going to go out and get a Bruce Arians type offensive coordinator. I don't know if that's the move they're going to go. We hope that that's the move that they make, right? We hope that they decide, okay, let's go back to the no risk it, no biscuit approach. That's, honestly, some of the best football we've seen Brady play was last season under that approach. So it's so weird that they went away from that. I do not understand it, and will never understand it. Why they decided to go with a lot more of a quick passing attack. I guess it's what Brady's known for, but it's 2023. That's just not football now. So we don't know where they're going to go with it, right? It's very possible they will, they fire Byron Leftwich and just try to get a better play caller who can do that kind of thing, which would still be an upgrade, right? That's still an advantage and still a definite plus, but, is it going to turn the Buccaneers from a one-and-done playoff team to a Super Bowl contender? It remains to be seen. I think there's more things they would have to fix, is what I would say in that scenario. And again, if Brady is gone, then none of this matters, and then the Buccaneers are going to, probably suck next year anyways, unless they go out and get a Lamar or something. But realistically, this team needs a quarterback, or they're not going to do very well. But as a whole, I think it's good news for Tampa Bay. I think bad news for Byron Leftwich. Obviously, you always feel bad for the guys who get fired, but hey, it's a performance business, right? I mean, guys get cut unceremoniously all the time. Players do. So this is just the coaching side of things. And again, as Tampa Bay fans, as I'm sure plenty of us are watching this video, as I am, we all remember sort of Dirk Cutter and his unwillingness to fire Mike Smith, who had a terrible defensive coaching staff. So, I give Todd Bowles credit. He's, I've heard actually, interestingly, report right now by Rappaport, Todd Monken could be back, who was a former Buccaneers offensive coordinator, which would be interesting. It would be interesting. Fascinated to see how this stuff goes. But again, we'll see what happens. Figured I'd make a video talking about it because it's an interesting story. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. Of course, as always, thanks for watching.